I've been sitting in the Pennsylvania State Archives in Harrisburg for 4 hours, going through county agricultural records, and I need to tell you what I found. What I found in a Lancaster County agricultural record changes everything you think you know about summer cooling. 54 degrees. That number should bother you. It bothered me. Because outside that day, the air was 93 degrees. Inside that old cooling space, the record kept circling the same cold band. 54 to 56 degrees. No compressor, no refrigerant, no service call. I kept turning pages, vaulted cellars, spring houses, detached summer kitchens, milk rooms built to move heat out before it ever owned the house. The number stayed there, 54. Nobody told you, not your builder, not your contractor, not the man who sold you a bigger condenser. They told you cooling starts with a machine. The records say cooling starts with physics. Here's what the evidence shows, and here's why nobody was supposed to find it. You are not trapped with a $7,000 answer to a summer problem. You are looking at a cooling method that can knock intake air down by 15 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit, move heat out of the hottest room in your house, and cost less than a service visit. And yes, this works even if your house was built 50 years ago. Stay with me. Because what I found in Lancaster uses the same physics the Persians used to make desert buildings livable 3,300 years ago. The core mechanism is brutally simple. Water changes phase. Heat pays for it. When dry or mixed air passes over a wet surface, that water absorbs heat and leaves as vapor. The air temperature drops. Your own skin runs the same system every summer. Sweat is not decoration. It is a cooling engine. The United States Department of Energy says evaporative coolers can lower air temperature by 15 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It also says they use about 1/4 as much energy as central air and often cost roughly half as much to install. That matters a lot. Pacific Northwest National Laboratory says low-energy cooling begins with 5 sources: cool outside air, evaporation, the ground, night flushing, radiative loss to the sky. In plain words, you cool the house the way a cast iron skillet cools. First you stop the heat gain, then you dump stored heat fast. The familiar analogy is your car radiator. Air passes across a wet or heat-loaded surface. Heat transfers, temperature falls. But here the coefficient of performance is what should stop you cold. You can get roughly 15 to 20 units of cooling effect for every 1 unit of electrical input, versus roughly 2.8 to 3.5 for a conventional compressor system. That is the real gap. And PNNL adds one more number. Air moving across your skin at 150 feet per minute can feel about 5 degrees cooler. So when you combine evaporation, airflow, and a heat escape path, the room stops fighting you. That gap represents billions of dollars in equipment, electricity, and service every year. And that is why you have never heard of this. I saw the living proof in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. It was late July. The gravel outside shimmered. The lanes smelled like cut hay and hot dust. Then I stepped into a small outbuilding behind the main house, and the sound changed first. No condenser hum, no duct rush, just flies, a door hinge, and water. I stayed in that doorway longer than I meant to. My shirt stopped sticking to my back. The air felt lighter, cooler, not refrigerated, alive. Eli looked at me, smiled once, and said, "We cool the air before the room has to fight it." He showed me the wet cloth screen, the shaded intake, and the high outlet vent. Nothing fancy, nothing digital. His family had used some version of it for 4 generations, with roots reaching back to migrants from the Palatinate and Canton Burn. That knowledge never disappeared. It was written out of the manual. It was waiting. And the paperwork backs him up. The Pennsylvania Agricultural History Project's Lancaster Plain Record, published in 2013 and documenting 1730 to 1960, confirms spring houses, summer kitchens, vaulted cellars, and milk cooling spaces as standard working parts of the farmstead. Take it back farther, and the pattern gets older, not weaker. In Yazd, Persian builders drove wind through tall towers and sometimes over subterranean water before releasing it indoors. The Dowlatabad garden wind catcher rises about 33 meters. The point was never style. The point was temperature. Long before that, Egypt used wind-catching openings in desert settlements, and the oldest examples reach back roughly 3,300 years. Hot air came in high. Cooler air moved through wetted surfaces and shaded interiors. Same problem, same answer. You see it again anywhere? People had to survive heat without burning fuel all day. Thick walls, shaded intakes, wet surfaces, high exhaust paths. Every civilization that mastered extreme heat arrived at the same answer independently. The Amish never forgot. They carried it from the Palatinate and Canton Burn to Pennsylvania and Ohio more than 200 years ago, and kept building it because it worked and because they never needed anyone's permission to do what made sense. Now for the part that should make you angry. In 1902, Willis Carrier built a humidity control machine for Sackett-Wilhelm's lithographing and publishing in Brooklyn. In 1906, that system became U.S. Patent 808,897, apparatus for treating air. By 1922, Carrier's centrifugal chiller at the Rivoli Theater had lowered the cost of comfort cooling for big buildings. Passive cooling did not threaten a hobby market. It threatened a future industry that now drains $29 billion a year from American homeowners. The suppression did not happen with one dramatic ban. It happened through standards, schooling, and the language of normal. ASHRAE's own industry timeline records 1906 as the year the term air conditioning was coined. Then came the manuals. Then came tract housing. Then came ANSI and ASHRAE Standard 55 in 1966, which turned comfort into a controlled indoor target tied to conditioned space. Once comfort became a machine specification, builders stopped designing houses to shed heat naturally. They designed boxes to be corrected later. The allies are easy to name. Sackett-Wilhelm's, lithographing and publishing, paid for the first commercial breakthrough because stable paper meant stable profit. Carrier Engineering Corporation sold the hardware. General Electric and Frigidaire then sold home units as consumer aspiration. And federal mortgage culture helped normalize the sealed, conditioned house across post-war subdivisions. Different sectors, same direction. More equipment, more electricity, more dependence. An entire field of knowledge disappeared from architecture schools, builder training, and ordinary home practice. Not because it failed, because it wasn't profitable. And the pattern never stopped. In 2020, the International Code Council Board altered the outcome of the 2021 Energy Code appeals, weakening parts of a stronger path forward. In 2022, Open Secrets recorded $964,622 in federal lobbying by the Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration Institute. In 2020, that figure was $1,100,122. The motive is not mysterious. Every house that solves heat with design instead of machinery shrinks future equipment sales. Home air conditioning costs American homeowners $29 billion a year. Every passive retrofit installed is electricity, equipment, and service revenue that never gets sold. Now, if you already own a house and you're thinking this only applies to people starting fresh, stay with me. Because this next part is specifically for you. You don't need to rip out your existing system or buy equipment. You need a window, a drill, a weekend. Here is the blueprint. You build a shaded intake panel that sits in a 24-inch by 24-inch or 24-inch by 36-inch window frame. Use 1x2 pine, exterior screws, and a double layer of muslin cotton or burlap stretched tight. The cloth costs $7 to $14. The wood usually runs $9 to $18. Then mount a simple 1/4 inch drip line across the top edge, fed by a 5-gallon bucket and an 8-watt aquarium pump. Set the bucket on a shelf or stool at least 18 inches above the sill. Drill a 3/8 inch return hole at the bottom tray so water falls back into the bucket. Behind the cloth, leave a 2-inch air gap. Outside the panel, add a scrap plywood or metal awning that projects 6 to 8 inches forward. Shade matters, more than people think. Inside the room, place a 20-inch box fan or a 12-inch inline duct fan to pull air through the wet panel, not blast against it. Then crack a high outlet window, attic hatch vent, or transom 3 to 4 inches on the far side of the house. An exhaust opening is not optional. A sealed room causes humidity buildup and the cooling stops. If you want more reach, run the cooled air into a short section of 4-inch Schedule 40 PVC or insulated flex duct aimed down the hallway. If you already have a shady north wall, use it. If not, hang 70% shade cloth outside the intake. If your wall takes brutal afternoon sun, add low-E radiant foil behind the outer awning. The whole build usually lands between $82 and $186. Even with upgraded hardware cloth, silicone sealant, and HDPE tray liners, you stay under $240. On a 95-degree day, this setup routinely delivers intake air 12 to 18 degrees cooler, and the moving air makes the room feel another 4 to 5 degrees lower. 40 minutes sets the frame. One Saturday morning finishes the first unit. It requires attention once a week in peak heat and a full scrub once a season. Muslin cotton is not optional. Synthetic felt holds odor, sheds poorly, and cools worse. Your conventional system costs $7,400 to $12,800 to install, $183 per month to run, and lasts 12 to 15 years before it ends up in a landfill. This costs $82 to $186 total. It lasts 8 to 10 years. Your choice. Everything I've covered across this channel, root cellar cooling, lime wash roofs, summer kitchen airflow, I've put it all in one place, step by step, season by season, room by room, in the order the families actually use it. The link is in the description. But stay here, because what Eli built is the part nobody is talking about yet. The Amish didn't read this in a textbook. They figured it out the way all real knowledge gets discovered, by paying attention to what the body was already doing. You can do the same thing. You already own the wall. You already own the window. You already own the heat trying to leave. If you're the kind of person who believes that real knowledge has been quietly pushed aside to protect someone else's profit, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe, not for me, for what comes next. Because this is not a channel. This is a quiet movement of people who have decided they're done being sold what they already own. I want to hear from you. Drop your state, your July electric bill, or the old cooling trick your grandparents used in the comments. I read every single one, and your answers decide what we cover next. Next week, I'm going to show you what a 1946 Penn State document reveals about keeping water, fruit, and medicine cold without a refrigerator. The technique uses nothing but clay, charcoal, and moving air. And the report that proves land-grant researchers knew about it decades before the hardware aisle buried it, you're not going to want to miss that one.